So again, welcome to CMA Workshop. This is enhanced. It has been updated, and so it has also been made a little bit longer. So let me go ahead and jump into my screen. Um, so I'm Maggie. I'm going to be your trainer this afternoon, and with you in the chat, you also have Connie. She is a trainer as well. So if you have any questions as we go through this, you can reach out to Connie in the chat and talk to her. The class has been extended from 60 minutes, which was its original format, to 90 minutes. And in today's class, we will be going through how to create a CMA using Matrix, both the full version CMA and the one-line CMA, which is condensed, how to pull comparables from IMAP, how to add pages to your Matrix CMA report if you wanted to kind of combine information from different platforms. We'll also be creating a CMA and RPR and showing you how to add pages to that, as well as the CMA from Remind and Realist. So all in all, we're going to be going through Matrix, IMAP, RPR, Remind, and Realist. And specifically in Matrix, we'll be creating 2 different reports. In the other systems, we'll be pulling 1 report. And so we did extend the class, like I mentioned, from 60 minutes to 90 minutes. I will be giving you a break halfway just to kind of let us stretch our legs, get a glass of water, a cup of coffee, and then kind of reset before we tackle the rest of the information. So we have dedicated the month of June to products that are free from Miami. Okay, and we do have an entire page dedicated to free from Miami. So if you go to miamirealtors.com, /free from Miami, you can see products that are available to you as members of Miami Association of Realtors. So I'm going to go ahead and share that link in the chat. I do see that Connie already shared the CMA page, so she read my mind. If you go to miamirealtors.com /CMA, here are the products that are listed, which are the products that we will be covering today, as well as mobile options for creating CMA reports, which you can do so on your mobile device, whether it's your cell phone or your tablet, using the mobile app for RPR, Remind, or HomeSnap. We cover these 3 products in a class called Mobile Realtor with Miami. Part 1 is dedicated to HomeSnap. Part 2 is dedicated to RPR and Remind, their mobile apps. I highly recommend that you attend the web-based computer version of this first. So go to those RPR classes, go to those Remind classes before you take the mobile app class. Once you understand how the product works on the computer, you can go ahead and understand and work with it on the app because it functions pretty much the same way. All right. Now on this page, we are offering you an information sheet. Right here, it says download our information sheet. When you click, it will open this information sheet. It has our contact information. It has our social media. It has the link to the CMA Workshop tutorials. And then it has like a little bit of an outline and breakdown for you. So you can go ahead and view this whenever you'd like, open it, download it, etc. Now that being said, please understand that this class is kind of going to combine quite a bit from different products. And so we are focused on that specific task of how do we search for and pull comps so that we can create a CMA using Matrix, IMAP, RPR, Remind, and Realist. So we aren't going to dive into the particulars of any of those products. We are only going to be focusing on that one specific task. If you're interested in learning more about these classes, please remember that Matrix has 5 classes: Matrix X 101, 201, 301, 401, and 501. IMAP has 2 classes, IMAP and Show Me the Money, which we do have Show Me the Money tomorrow afternoon if you are interested. RPR has RPR Residential and RPR Commercial. Remind has a Remind Pro class that I just taught yesterday, and I will be uploading those recordings this week. And then Realist also has its own class, okay? So let's go ahead and get started because we will be covering quite a bit. So all of these products are on your Miami Gateway. We're gonna start at miamirealtors.com. Look for Login with the Miami Gateway up here at the top in the center, or right beneath these announcements, you have the Miami Gateway right here on the left. Once you log in, we're gonna start with Matrix, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into Matrix. I'm gonna click on that. And I chose a property that sold back in June of 2020. So when you are going to be creating a listing presentation, which is generally when you would use the CMA, you should go to see the property so that as you choose comparables and look for comparables, you know what you're looking for. The criteria and the things that I'm looking for are based off of what's outlined in the Pricing Strategy Advisor certification, also known as the PSA. your trainers are PSA certified. So I will be focusing on that criteria, and I will be focusing on what is outlined in that certification, which means looking for comparables that are similar to the subject property in size, in characteristics and features, and that are also going to be nearby, so within a half mile. If it's a condo, in the same building. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to start the process of searching for those comparables using Matrix first. Now let's pretend that we go to the property and we look at it. Obviously, we're doing this virtually, so I have chosen an MLS property so that we can go ahead and look at it here on Matrix. All right, so this is the property, okay? It's got 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, approximately 1,500 square feet living area, and the lot is about 7,500 square feet. As you can see, it's pretty updated. So when we're looking for comparables, we're going to be looking hopefully for comparables that are also updated, that also have similar features, same number of bedrooms, bathrooms. This is a 1-story property, so we're going to focus on 1-story properties, and it also has a pool. Ideally, our comps should also have a pool, but sometimes we have to pick comparables that aren't exactly the same, but close enough. Okay, so we've looked at the pictures. We're pretending that that was our walkthrough of the property. Let's look at the remarks. It's been remodeled, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Okay, new roof, new AC, upgraded bathroom and kitchen, washer dryer, obviously, ceramic and wooden floors in the bedroom, saltwater heated pool with a little outdoor gazebo that has a barbecue and a sink. Okay, so we are going to, now that we have seen the property, right, we've walked through it, we're going to search for those comparables. I'm going to start with a search. So up here at the top, I'm going to hover over search and enter an RE1, RE2 search. Now, according to the pricing strategy advisor, we should be looking for a combination of active and closed sales, ideally, if possible. We are dealing with a seller's market, so inventory is a little low and we may or may not have active listings. There are some who also like to look at active with contract and pending sales. That's optional. But minimum, we should be trying to look at a little bit of the active and closed sales from the last 6 months, which is why you see in the field next to closed sale, 0 to 180, which is 180 days, which equals 6 months. This is a single family property, so we're going to look for single family single, and we are going to look within a half mile of the property. So in the center where it says map search, I'm going to change that radius from 0.25 to 0.5. And in the second field where it says miles of, I'm going to enter the property address. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the property address, hit enter, and the system tells me, did you meet? So it is suggesting the property address, and I'm going to go ahead and click on it. When you have entered the address, please make sure that the phrase right above it in red says map area selected. If it does not, that means that it has not located the property. So it doesn't know where to draw the radius. So we're going to make sure that that phrase changes, letting us know that it is drawing the radius in the correct area, and then we can move on to looking for comparables that also have 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and we're going to create a range for the living area. Okay, so what does that mean? All these properties in this area are going to vary slightly with the square footage. So I can't enter the exact square footage because the likelihood that I would find another single family home with that exact square footage, bedrooms and bathrooms, might be slim to none. When you're dealing with certain subdivisions that had a specific set of models, it is very easy, right? Or if you're working with townhouses or condos. But in this area, we have single family homes of varying sizes, varying years of construction. So they're going to differ slightly. So we create a 20% range. So what does that mean? Give me 1 second, because I'm a visual person. And so the way that I understand things is by looking at numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share a calculator on the screen with you, just in case you're also visual like I am. All right, so this property has 1,490 square feet living area, and we do use living area, which, long story short, the simplest definition would be anything covered by AC, by air conditioning. So this has approximately 1,500 square feet. Well, if I take 1,500 and I get 20%, I would multiply it times 0.2, and that's 300 square feet. So now how do I get my range? To get my minimum, I'm going to take that 1,500 minus the 300. That gives me a minimum of 1,200. And then that 1,500 plus the 300 is going to give me a maximum of 1,800. So I'm going to look for comparables that are between 1,200 and 1,800 square feet living area. Okay. So let's go back to our search, and where it says square foot living area, let's plug in that range, 1,200 - 1,800. If it's a condo, we're going to calculate 10%. But again, condos tend to have the same setup and the same models, quote unquote, throughout the building. So it's a little easier in that sense. We are going to do the same with the property. Sometimes you're in an area where lot sizes can vary greatly. So we want to make sure that the property square footage, we do the same thing. This property has approximately 7,500 square feet as the lot size. So I went ahead and did the calculations, and that gives me a range of 6,000 to 9,000 square feet. And when we scroll down, I see that I have 10 matches. Now, of those 10 matches, we have to go through each of those, and we do have to go ahead and select ideally 3 to 4 comps. You can choose a little more. I would say no more than 6 max, but you need minimum 3 comparables. So I have 10 matches. Out of 10, I could possibly get 3. And if I don't, I can always go back and alter my criteria. Maybe I would look at closed sales for the last year instead of the last 6 months, or I would look at comparables that have 3 to 4 bedrooms and 2 to 3 bathrooms, and then I would make adjustments later on down the line. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my results. So at the bottom of the screen, I click on results, and I now have my 10. Realize that because we are in a seller's market, there are no active listings at this time. Everything is, there's 1 active with contract, a bunch of closed sales, and 2 pending sales. Okay. So now I would go through the tedious process of opening each of these and then selecting my comparables. So I'm going to go ahead and open the first one. Okay, let's look at these pictures. Remember, we are looking for properties that are similar, and this one does not look like it's been remodeled and updated. So immediately, aesthetically, we know this is a no. We're going to go ahead and close that out. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. This is also 1 story, just like our subject property. Floors look like they've been updated. Okay, they have a pool, just like our subject property. The kitchen, okay, looks like it's pretty up to date. Right, the flooring, again, looks like the bathrooms as well. So we're looking, they also have that pool, like I mentioned. We're looking to make sure that this property is similar to ours. So we already know it's nearby. We already know that it has a pool, and we saw that it's relatively up to date inside, just like our subject property. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say this is a possible comp. So I'm going to check it off. Right above the pictures, there's a tiny little check box. I'm going to check that off. We go to the next property. Okay, we click through, same thing. This also looks like it's been updated. We already know it has 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It's nearby. It's within the square footage. It doesn't have a pool, but we can make adjustments for that. Okay, so this looks like it's a pretty good comp. It doesn't have a pool. I'm going to go ahead and check it off, and we can adjust the price later. Let's go to the next. This has our garage. Our subject property did not, but it does have a pool, and it does have a little gazebo like our subject property. But there aren't a lot of pictures, so I can't tell if the kitchens have been updated. The kitchen, not the kitchens. The kitchen has been updated. Can't tell if the bathrooms have been updated. There isn't enough information for me here. And let's see what they said in the remarks. Not too much. So we're going to go ahead and skip this. There wasn't enough info for us to decide whether or not it was a good comp. Let's look at this one. Also 1 story like our subject property. Also, it's been remodeled on the inside. So everything is newly remodeled, modern, floors as well. Let's see, as we go through the pictures, bathrooms have been updated as well. Let's see if we can see the backyard. Okay, there's no pool, but the interior is still a good idea to keep as a comp. So we're going to go ahead and check this off. I've reached my 3. Does that mean I stop now? No, I should continue with the process just in case. I find, remember, you can pick minimum 3 to 4, maximum, I would say no more than 6. Okay, so this property has wood floors. Ours had wood floors and ceramic. Let's see, the kitchen looks like it's been updated. They don't have a pool. Okay, and they have a garage and ours didn't. So I would have to make an adjustment for the garage and the fact that it doesn't have a pool. Not a horrible comp, but not the best either. The others have been more ideal. This one doesn't look like that kitchen has been updated. It has a pool. It's an above ground pool. Not ideal either. And we don't have a lot of pictures. We don't have enough information there either. We move on to the next. And if this seems tedious, this is what you would be doing every time you create a CMA. Okay, the floors, we have tile, but it's not updated. Okay, that kitchen has not been updated either. So we can move on to the next. This is a corner lot. It has a garage, but it doesn't look like it's been updated either. Okay, yeah, it has not. So we're gonna move on to the final one. And let's see, this kitchen doesn't look like it's been updated either. I don't see a pool in that backyard. It does have wood floors. These bathrooms have not been updated. So we've reached the end of the line and I got exactly 3 comparables. Okay, if you notice, I checked off 3. So let's go back to my grid. I checked off 3 closed sales. Unfortunately, the active with contract and the pending sales weren't a good match either. And it's a seller's market, so we don't have any active listings right now. Okay, so now that we've selected our 3 comparables, let's create our CMA. At the bottom of the screen, there is a button that says CMA. I click on that, and now I go through the CMA wizard. We do go into the CMA wizard with a lot of detail in Matrix X 301. But in the start, you're going to select your contact from the dropdown. Okay, if you haven't saved them, you can go ahead and create a new contact. And you also have the CMA available in English or Spanish. In the description, we always recommend that you add the address for the property. Okay, and it's a open field. There are no character limits, so you can decide how much or how little to write here. After you have filled out your starting section, your starting point, we can go on to the pages. These are the pages that I recommend for our CMA. I do show you what these look like. All of these pages that you see that are available on the left-hand side, I show you what each and every one of them looks like in Matrix X 301. And at the end of that class, I do show you my suggestion. This is my suggestion. Once you have your preferred set of pages ready to go, you can set it as a default at the bottom of the screen. And that's always going to be there for you, just like mine was here the minute I clicked on pages. Once you have added your pages, and you can also rearrange them by using the arrows on the right-hand side, you can move on to adding the subject properties information. Now, as I showed you at the start of class, this property was in the MLS, and the MLS does have history for the last about 10 to 12 years. So what I can do is, instead of filling everything out manually, which is your first option, and searching for it, which is the last option, I can just enter the MLS number and basically have the system copy and paste that in. So where it says type in the subject property fields manually, I would go through and I would type everything in manually myself. Where it says enter a cross property MLS number to autofill from, I would take that old listing, plug in the MLS number here and click on fill. And then my last option is, I don't know that MLS number. I can go ahead and search the MLS and then pull it in. I happen to have the MLS number, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in here so that we can have the information auto-populated or auto-filled in our report. So there's the MLS. I click on fill. Everything is brought over. I can update the picture. I can update any details that may have changed. I can edit these remarks, leave them as is, or delete them. So once I'm done editing that subject properties information, if needed, I can go on to the cover sheet. We do show you how to edit your cover sheet information, which is what shows up in agent info down here at the bottom left, in the very first Matrix class. But if you needed to do this at any point, just so that you know, and just as a reminder, you can click on your name in the top right corner, go into settings and click on my information. So here we would add or update the subject cover photo for the subject property. We would finish filling out our contacts information, so our potential customer or customer's information. And then where your information appears, please remember that originally there was a silhouette of two people shaking hands. And if you don't load your picture or your company logo, something, that silhouette does appear on your reports. So on the very first page of the report, we're going to see the subject properties photo, our contacts information, and our information as well. Okay, after you have filled out the cover, we can move on to the comparables. And yes, if the subject property is not on the MLS and has not been in the MLS in the last 10 to 12 years, you would have to manually include all of the information. Okay, this is just reminding us of the comparables that we chose, which are the 3 that I selected after we went through all of our 10 results. So we're good to go there. We can move on to the map, just to visually make sure it's in close proximity, which it is, or which they are. And then we can move on to our adjustments, because we already know some of them had a pool, our subject property has a pool, so we need to make adjustments. Okay, now here in the adjustments, on the left-hand side, we have our subject property and the 3 comparables we chose. We have our pricing. We have our fields on the right-hand side where we can make adjustments. So when we make adjustments, what we're doing in essence is leveling the playing field, meaning if I had to choose, or if I ended up choosing a comparable that has something more than my subject property, I would have to reduce that value just to kind of bring it back down to the same level. If I chose a comparable that's lacking something, in this situation, maybe it didn't have a pool, I need to add value so that I can bring it up to the same level. So we are leveling everything. Here is zip code, county, subdivision. Bedrooms and bathrooms are all the same. Half baths, it's all no, or they don't have any. But pool, our subject property has a pool. The first comparable has a pool, but the second and third comparable do not. So in order to determine the value of a pool, or the value a pool adds to a property, I could speak to an appraiser. I could run a search in Matrix in that area and see what properties with a bedroom sold at, and what properties with a pool sold at, maybe with the same number of bedrooms and bathrooms, and what they sold at without a pool. And that difference would give me an idea of the value of a pool. Usually it's going to be, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 in areas, in suburban areas in Miami. But if it's a little more upscale and a little more luxury, obviously that's going to increase. So what I would do is to add that value where it says no. Let's say I did all that additional research and the pool seemed to have added $20,000 value. I would go ahead and I would plug in the number 20,000 into each of these fields, and notice that on the left-hand side, the price and the adjusted price are now going to show a difference. It's been altered by $20,000. If I needed to remove value, I would also do the same thing, but with a minus at the start of the number. Okay, we've got the number of stories, we've got the square footage, total acreage, etc. And that seems to be the only adjustment we need to make in this situation. You can, of course, make other adjustments, and it's going to vary case by case. No two CMAs are going to be alike. It really is an art form, and it is quite a process searching for, finding, and adding comparables and adjusting things when needed. So now that we've made our adjustments, we can move on to pricing. And we have our table up here with the low, median, average, and high. We have the comparable prices, which were the prices before we made any adjustments. And then we have the adjusted price, where we see those prices once those adjustments have been made. I like to look at the median and average for both. So I tend to focus on these numbers right here in the center. Okay, let me just, right here, these numbers. Okay, so I'm looking at anything from about almost 520 all the way up to 545. I can offer a range. When you offer a range, you're giving yourself some wiggle room and you're having the conversation up front that this is a window of pricing, and if needed, adjustments will be made instead of offering a set price. Okay, which is entirely possible as well. You can do that too. But I'm going to go ahead and just plug in that range, which is approximately $520,000 to $545,000. I'm going to scroll down. You can add in notes, and this is optional. You can add in an entire explanation. So I'm going to just put after analyzing the market and the comparables so that you can see where it comes up. Okay, and then we're done. When I click on finish, the system has been automatically saving my progress as I go. I can now view the CMA, email it. I can see the selected pages. I can see the tally of comparables and then the subject property details. So this is what the report looks like using the pages I suggested and recommended. Okay, so this is the cover sheet, one of two options that you have: subject property, customer information, agent information at the bottom. The CMA price adjustments, if you didn't need to make adjustments that time, you can just remove it. The adjustments are going to be at the bottom and they are totaled, they are not itemized, so you would need to make sure to explain the adjustments that were made and why. You also have the CMA Pro report, which is going to have each comparable with details and remarks. And then the CMA Pro report also has graphics. So it has these nice little bar graphs broken down by status, and then a table at the end. You have your pricing recommendation inserted right here. And if you choose to add notes, it would appear here in this area, right where I wrote in after analyzing the market and the comparables. Your guarantee as a realtor, this is automatically included or added to the options that you have in Matrix. And then you also have the benefits of using a realtor. At the end, you have the map. If this had been a condo, you wouldn't need the map because they're all going to be in the same building. Okay, so this was your option from Matrix. Now, what we analyzed here is activity as it occurred in the MLS, meaning activity as it occurred through other realtors like you, right? And sometimes we have sales that occur without a realtor. For example, if it's a for sale by owner, and we're not going to see that here in Matrix. We're going to see that in other systems like IMAP. So what I'm going to show you now is how to go to IMAP and pull comparables from IMAP and focus on the ones that happened without a realtor so that you can get the full picture. So I'm going to go to my gateway and I'm going to look for IMAP and click on IMAP. IMAP tends to leave off or start back up where you left off, I should say. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the tax search and I'm going to make sure I am in the correct county. All right, where it says property address, I'm going to go ahead and plug in the property address and hit enter or click on start search. Okay, here's the property. Now on the right-hand side, it says find comparables. I'm going to click on find comparables. The criteria that I am using, okay, let me zoom in so that you can see it, is lot size plus or minus 20%, living area plus or minus 20%, which are the same calculations that I used in Matrix. So it's generating that 20% range for me. Located within a half mile, sold in the last 6 months. You can ignore the year built. You can have the same number of bathrooms, same number of bedrooms. It wasn't waterfront, so we don't need to worry. Ignore stories. We're going to just say same number of stories. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and update the criteria. If you found that there's a specific criteria you'd like to use and you would like to keep it that way, you can just set it as a default. Now, these are my results. Anything that has a blue R was sold by a realtor, which means it occurred through the MLS, and I already saw that because I already ran my search in the MLS. If it doesn't have the blue R, it's a sale that's been legally recorded but did not occur through a realtor. It was not on the MLS. So what happens if I remove this check mark from every result that has a blue R? How many sales can I find in this area in the last 6 months that occurred without a realtor? 2. And all I did was remove the check mark and they get deactivated. They're not included. Here's the thing. These 2 sales occurred outside of the MLS. This one sold in January, so did this one. And they sold for $412 and $407. Well, if I go back to Matrix and I go to my pricing tab, the lowest sale that occurred in the MLS without adjustments was $475. So what does this tell me? I might not use these as comparables to help me determine pricing in this situation, but I could use it to prove to my customer that you sell your property for more if you sell it with a realtor. We don't know the specifics of these situations. We don't have pictures of these properties, so we don't know what condition they were in. But now that I've looked at the sales that occurred outside of the MLS, I now have a better idea. I now can, with confidence, tell my customer, these are sales that occurred in your area without a realtor, and they sold for far less than properties that sold in the MLS with a realtor, right? So you can use these comparables in a variety of ways, but at the end of the day, it's going to enable you not enable you, but it's going to empower you to be able to have an educated conversation with your customer. So how would I take this and include it in my report in Matrix, right? And you can also look at the projected sale price. I always like to look at the projected sale price by square foot. According to just the sales that occurred without a realtor, the projected price would be $385. But the sales in Matrix that occurred with realtors that were through the MLS sold for far more. Okay, so again, in this situation, I can use it to kind of prove that point with the customer. So if I wanted to include this with what I created in Matrix, on the right-hand side, you are going to save this page as a PDF. You are allowed to add additional pages to your Matrix report, your Matrix CMA, as long as it's a PDF. So we're going to go ahead and save it as a PDF. And I'm using Google Chrome, so I know it's going to automatically go to my download folder or my downloads folder. I'm going to go back to Matrix and I want to add this page in. So I'm going to click on Pages. Now at the bottom left, it says Manage Custom Pages, or maybe it'll say Add or Upload Custom Pages. I have a page I want to include. I'm going to go ahead and click here. And let me go ahead and just remove this for a second. Okay, so once you're here, you're going to choose the file from your computer. You're going to open it and then click on Upload. Now, in this situation, I'm using comparables that I pulled from IMAP, but you can do this with flyers. You can do this with marketing materials. You can do this with co-branded flyers from Miami Realtors. This is just one example of how you might use it. So I've uploaded from my computer the comparables that I found in IMAP, and they always add a header. The header usually looks out of place. Let me show you. It's the header that you created in Matrix X101. And unless the page has been specifically designed to allow for a header at the top, it's usually going to look out of place like it does here. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that header by removing the check mark. Okay, so where it says Add Header, I remove the check mark, and now I click on Save. I have added the page to Matrix. I now need to add it to my report. I'm going to click on the page that I just uploaded, and I should see it listed under my selected pages. You can leave it at the end, or remember you have arrows that you can use to rearrange and reorder the pages. Now that I've added this in, let's look at what it looks like. I go to Finish, I go to View CMA. It's going to be the same exact report, but those comps that I pulled and that I exported from IMAP will now be at the end of my report. Okay, there you have it. Here is that page from IMAP directly where I see those 2 sales, realize that the other sales that I removed and were grayed out are not visible. And I can now show my customer, these are 2 sales that occurred back in January. There was no realtor involved. It was outside of the MLS and they sold for just this much. Okay. So you can use it for a variety of reasons. You can add in whatever custom pages you'd like as long as they are PDFs. Now in Matrix, if you wanted to go ahead and you wanted to view the report, so let's say I log out, I come back tomorrow, I want to pull the report or look at it again from your dashboard. Okay, you're going to go ahead and hover over my Matrix. You're going to click on my CMAs. And here's the CMA I just created with you guys. When you click on the CMA, you can edit, so you can go back into it and edit or upload or alter it. You can view it, so you can open it and print it or save it on your device. You can email it or you can delete it. Please know that they will be automatically deleted after 180 days. So Matrix will keep it saved for 6 months, at which point they will delete it unless you've saved a copy on your device, of course. Now you do have another option. The report that I showed you was rather lengthy. It wasn't too lengthy, but it did have various pages, and sometimes you need something that's a little more concise or condensed. So in that situation, you can create another report here in Matrix called the CMA one line. You would repeat the process of going to your search. You would use the very same criteria that we had mentioned earlier, so your active and closed sales, and if you would like to add your active with contract and pending, you can. You select your property type, you enter your radius, you enter your subject property address, and make sure that it changes that phrase up here to map area selected. So everything stays the same. What's going to change is when we go to select the report, instead of selecting the CMA, we are going to select a different report. Okay, so there are my results. I click on results. We had gone through all of these, but just for the sake of showing you the report, I'm going to select a few. And instead of clicking on CMA at the bottom of the screen where it says CMA, you can actually click on print, which is to the left, and that's where you're going to find your additional reports. The report that I'm mentioning is called the CMA one-line summary report. There we go. You're going to scroll down and look for the CMA one-line summary report. I click on that, and this is what it looks like. Depending on how many comparables you chose, it's usually 1 to 2 pages. It's going to be sectioned off by status, and then at the very end, you're going to have grand totals of everything all together. So as you can see, this is just 1 page. The downside is I can't make adjustments here. So it's just straight numbers, raw data. We cannot alter that. But if you needed some quick numbers, or if you're working with an investor, a lot of times they just want to see the numbers and they want to see the breakdown that way, you can use this instead. Now, you can go ahead and add in the 3-up comparison. Remember, you can select multiple items in Matrix by either holding down the control key if it's a Windows-based device, or the command key if it's a Mac. And we're going to go ahead and you can add that in so that you have at least 1 picture, let me show you, and details about each of the comps that you chose. Now on this page, you're going to have averages for square footage, for total area, year built, price per square foot, original price, and list price, again, broken down by status. So all your actives together, all your active with contract, all your pending, all your closed sales. And then at the very bottom, you're going to have the calculation of all of that data all together in the grand totals. Okay, so again, we were able to get this report by going through our same search process, but at the bottom of the screen, instead of clicking on CMA, we clicked on print, which is right next to CMA on the left-hand side, and we selected the CMA one-line summary report, or additionally, you can also choose the 3-up comparison. Okay? All right. So now we've gone through the 2 report options that you have in Matrix, and we also went through the process of looking for comparables in IMAP. Let's go ahead and let's create a CMA in Remine. So I'm going to go back to my gateway. Let me close a few tabs. I'm going to go back to my gateway and I'm going to look for Remind. It's right here. It's this blue icon. Okay, let's give it a second to load. All right, so this is another CMA option for you. You can go to Remind. Remember that Remind does have various classes, and I will be uploading an updated Remind to YouTube and Miami Realtors Live this week. But if you go on the left-hand side where it says search, once that loads, you're going to look for that search bar up at the top, and you're going to plug in the address. Okay, here's the property. I click on it. Here's the property. I verify. There's the Google Street View. Perfect. Now, in Remind, you have quite a bit of information. Lots of info, including contact information for free. But today we're focused on the CMA. So on the right-hand side, next to those pictures or next to that Google Street View, it says Create CMA. I can click on that and then click on the option that says Remind CMA 360. Okay, so step one, you are going to select your criteria. We know this property has 3 bedrooms, so we're going to look for properties or comparables that have 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Square foot, we already know, we did those calculations, and so we know that we're looking for properties that are between 12 and 1,800 square feet. Lot size, we did those calculations as well. We're looking for lot sizes that are between 6 and 9,000 square feet. Building type, single family. Status, we're always going to start with active and closed sale, but look at what Remind has. They have closed sales on the MLS and closed sales off the MLS. So just like in IMAP, I can see sales that occurred through the MLS and outside of the MLS. In Remind, I have the same option. So I'm going to go ahead and add in both. Again, you can also add in your pending and your active with contract. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just finish adding these in. All right, so I've got my active, I've got my 2 types of closed sales, my active under contract and my pending. Sold time frame, we're looking at the last 6 months within a half mile. We click on search at the bottom of the screen. It's going to go ahead and run the search and pull my comparables. There we go. Now I do see that there are 10 comparables. There's 1 active under contract. There's 1 that's closed, or not 1, I'm sorry, 7 that closed on the MLS, 2 pending. Okay, they're not showing me the others that may have closed outside of the MLS. You can analyze each of these comparables by clicking on them. So if I click on the address, in another tab, it's going to open the details for the property. And I'm going to do the same thing I did in Matrix. If it's not a good comp, I'm going to remove it by clicking on remove. I click on the next one and I repeat the process. Okay, I've already seen these, so I can really quickly determine which ones were the comps and which ones were not. Okay, that was the one that didn't have enough pictures. Lucky for me, I have a photographic memory, right? So I go through and I repeat the same process. I'm going to double check everything. And what I like about Remind is that when I click on these addresses to analyze these properties, I'm not losing my work and I don't have to worry about going back and forth. Okay, I just have to close the tab out. Okay, so again, just kind of go through everything and remove anything that isn't a good comp. Once you're done removing your comps, you can then move on with the process. Now, you cannot make adjustments here in Remind either. Okay, so you cannot make adjustments in Remind. Just going to finish going through all of these. These are the same exact ones. I just wanted you to see that we had already seen these in the MLS. So it does pull that information from the MLS. And then you cannot make adjustments here. You don't have that option. Okay. All right. So we're down to the 3 that I had chosen. Once you're done removing anything that you do not want to keep as a comparable, in the top right corner, you can click on Save and Continue. Again, you cannot make adjustments. So what you have access to is selecting the comparables. And what's nice is it will search for sales that occurred on the MLS and off the MLS. You then remove any comparables that you do not want included in your report, and then you can move on to customizing your report. When you customize your report, you can customize the colors by selecting 2 complementary colors. You can upload your company logo and your photo. You can include the name of your client. So my client, Susie Q. And prepared by is going to show your name as the agent who prepared it. I click on Save and Continue, and it is going to generate some numbers and stats for me. Now remember, adjustments weren't made. So I'm looking at a price range that goes from $475 to $545. I do have some demographics. I do have some estimated values provided by First American and Redfin. And then I have the comparables. Now, when I go to generate the PDF in the top right corner where it says print, I click and I can name my file. I can choose to include the images from the MLS if available or not. And I can choose to include or remove those valuations from First American, Redfin. I've also seen them include estimates from Zillow, and there's also sometimes a Zillow rental estimate. So if you don't want those included, you're going to say no. If you want them included, you're going to say yes. That's up to you. And I click on print. Okay, it downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and open it. It is a very short report, concise and to the point. So there's my cover sheets, which we had seen a preview of it. Here are my demographics. Here's the valuations. Again, this entire section can be removed. You have your comparables, the stats, and then you have your comps. Now, if you would like to have more information, this is a PDF, so you can always take it and add it to your matrix report, or RPR is the other system that lets you add in PDF pages, okay? But this is your Remind report. So now we've gone through the 2 report options that you have in Matrix. We've gone through how to pull and download comps from IMAP so that you can combine them with Matrix if you'd like. And we've gone through your Remind option for your CMA. Now we are going to tackle the RPR CMA. So we're back on our Miami Gateway and we're going to look for RPR. It's going to be around IMAP and Realist. I'm going to go ahead and click on RPR, and I will tell you that your profile information is used to generate your information on the cover sheet. So I would recommend, if you haven't come into RPR for a while, that you go to the top right corner, click on your picture, go to your profile, and double check all of your information. Your office info, your phone numbers, your emails, your websites, etc. Okay? Because that information is then pulled to populate your information on the cover sheet of the report. All right, so from here, all you have to do is up here where it asks for the location, you're going to plug in the address for the property. Okay, there it is. I click on it. And there's the property. Now we go through all of this information and all of these tabs in our RPR residential class. So I invite you to attend that RPR residential class, and I think it's going to be happening the week of June 14th. It is on the calendar, and if not for sure, I know that there are a few being offered this month. All right, so to create a CMA, you're going to locate the button at the top or the tab that says CMA once you have pulled the property's details. We're going to click on that. Okay, now you have 2 options. You have the comparative analysis or the sales comparison analysis, which is more detailed and generally used by appraisers. Appraisers also use RPR. If you click on what's the difference, they will give you an entire explanation with a video as to what the difference is. But at the bottom, it does explain that the comparative analysis helps agents generate a price range for a property, whereas the sales comparison analysis is a more detailed property evaluation similar to what an appraiser might conduct. We are going to stick to the comparative analysis. Step 1, we are going to confirm the subject property's details. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on confirm facts in step 1. and we are going to make sure that everything is as we know it to be. So it's single family, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 1490, 7546. Everything is good to go. I'm going to go ahead and confirm the facts. If something is not accurate, I can go ahead and update it using the column that says your changes. I confirm the facts and close. Step 2, find comparables. So we're going to go ahead and click on find comps. And just like Remind, RPR does have access to tax roll information and also the MLS. In fact, RPR is a National Association of Realtors product, and it has MLS data from 261 participating associations. So if you're ever interested in looking for listings outside of our MLS, you can use RPR as one of those options. Now, we get this little pop-up where we can enter our criteria. So the property type has already been selected. The property status is active for sale, pending, closed. I'm just going to add in that active with contract. Within the last 6 months, we're going to leave that as is. And then for bedrooms, we're going to go ahead and say 3 to 3 and 2 to 2 so that we can get exactly 3 2s. And in the square footage, they created a range that's a little bit bigger than what we generally calculate. So I'm just going to go ahead and update that. And then we're going to include the lot size. Again, they made that range a little bit larger and a little more expansive. So I'm just going to go ahead and fine tune that. We can now move on to the location. So I've entered all my criteria. I need to draw that half-mile radius. There are some options above the map, including draw shape. So I'm going to go ahead and click on draw shape and select radius. Here's my subject property. I'm going to click and drag, and as I do so, it will let me know what the radius is. That's about half-mile there. I'm going to let it go and say search in this area. I click on search in this area. And now I have all of my comparables populated. Okay. If I scroll down, I am going to see the 11 sold properties. If I keep scrolling, if there's anything that's a different status, here we go. 3 that are, they say for sale, but that's because they categorize pending and active sales as for sale still. So here I have the same, I think there's 1 or 2 that weren't in the MLS or that I didn't see in the MLS. And they are going to be marked as such. For example, this one says closed public record. Okay, so that's a sale that occurred that they pulled from the public record. Now, RPR does create their own estimate of a property's value. And if they included that comparable in their own calculations, I'm going to see that it has a star. So I know that RPR used these 3 properties, this property. Okay, and that's it, those 4 properties to help calculate the estimated value, which they call the RVM. Now, I can analyze and edit as well. Here you do have to hand select them. So I would click on each of these addresses, and just like in other products, it opens to another screen. And because it does pull from our MLS, we do get to see those pictures. Okay, so we can go ahead and go through the pictures and then decide whether or not we want to keep it. If you want to add it, you're going to click on add to comps list. Okay, this one says closed public record. So when I click on it, I'm not going to have pictures. If I do have pictures, they might be from a really old MLS listing. Okay, so I don't have enough information sometimes to determine whether or not I should include that as a comp. So I can click on the address, it will open in a separate tab, and I can look through the pictures and then decide whether or not I'd like to add it to the comps list. Okay, so we're going to repeat that process. I'm not going to go through all 11 of them at this point. We've pretty much seen all of them, but I do want to make sure to select about 3 or 4 so that I can show you how to create or finish creating your CMA in RPR. Okay, so we had used this one as well. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the last one. Okay, now, so I've gone through and I've selected my 3 comparables, right? I'm going to click on the blue button that says update valuation and close. And remember, minimum 3, but you can select a few more. I would say no more than 6 or 7. Once you have selected your comparables, you can now make adjustments. So for those of you that didn't feel comfortable with calculating the actual adjustments in Matrix, you can use RPR, and all you have to do is tell them if the comparable is worse or better, and they'll go ahead and calibrate accordingly. So let's say this one's a little bit better. I click on these marks that you see on these lines, and as you move further to the right or left, it's going to adjust things accordingly. So if you didn't feel comfortable with having to calculate those exact values to make adjustments using Matrix, you can use RPR and allow RPR to calibrate. Okay, so if it's missing a pool, I would say it's a little bit worse, right? And I would go through and make my adjustments. Now, once you are done making your adjustments, you can enter text at the bottom as to why you made adjustments, why you think that comparable is better or worse, and then you would update valuation and close. Once you update the valuation and close, they will give you a list price and a price range right beneath it. It is pretty exact, $521,000 and $521,301. If you wanted to make this a little more rounded off, you can edit and supply your own list price and create your own range. Okay, so let's say we had said in Matrix, I already forgot what my range was in Matrix, but let's say I look at all of this, and I would recommend looking at, more than one. But what I look at again is when I'm in the pricing section, I look at the median and average. So I'm looking at anywhere from 520 to 545. Okay, here I'm dealing with a range that says about 445 to about 6. Their ranges are really, really expansive. So I would go ahead and I would say, 520 to 545, and let's go ahead. And we know that the seller is going to want to list it at 545. They're going to want to list it at the top of that range. And then we can just enter our own range down here. Okay, we save that. Once we have edited that list price and that range, we can click on create report. The report in RPR can be upwards of 50, 60, 70, 80 pages, depending on how many comparables you have included. So if you notice in parentheses, it says approximately 81 pages. If I click on the plus symbol, I can see all of the pages. And if I wanted to make this a little bit shorter, I would go ahead and I would remove some of these pages. Now you can also load custom pages here as well. So on the right-hand side, I have a preview of the cover page. And then I can decide how much of my information I want on that cover page. If you don't want all of this, you can just remove the check marks. You can show page numbers so that your report is numbered. And then it says manage custom pages. If I click on manage custom pages, this allows me to add in pages. So I'm going to go ahead and add another custom page. And I'm just going to use the same one that I had pulled from IMAP. Okay, there it is. And I can save. Now you can determine whether you want this at the beginning or end. Unfortunately, you can't insert it in the middle of the report. I can in Matrix, but I can't here. Here I'm choosing the beginning or end. I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to run this report as is so that you can see exactly how long it can get. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and click on Run Report. Now, if you don't want it to be that long, because I'm not kidding, it's going to have a book. It's going to have 50, 60, 70, 80 pages, depending on how many comps you selected. Let's say you wanted it to be a little shorter. I do have a suggestion here, just like I had a suggestion for Matrix, of the pages that you could remove. Okay, and I do have a screenshot that I would be more than happy to share with you. But For the subject property, I'm going to remove the estimated value change because I don't want them to see the estimated value according to RPR. I want them to see what I've determined is the price range and the estimated value of the property, how much we could sell it for. For home facts, we can leave the facts and the homeowner facts, but we don't need any of the extended information. We don't need the refined value or all of the property pictures. They know what their property looks like, or the historical, or the property history. We can remove the market activity. This is a CMA. We're obviously going to leave our comps. We're going to remove the market activity. So anything that says market activity. We're going to leave our recommended pricing strategy. Seller's proceeds, if you didn't calculate that, it's not going to show anyway. Your mobile notes and photos are going to be any pictures and notes that you took through the mobile app. And then, of course, you have your about RPR and what RPR is, which I recommend you leave so that you can talk to your customer about how RPR is a product of the National Association of Realtors and how and where they get their data. Just to kind of explain the validity, because the consumer is not going to know much about RPR, if anything at all. Now I'm going to go ahead and run this report as well. So these are running. I'm going to scroll back up to the top, and the recent reports I've run are going to be up here at the top. This is the report that has all of the pages. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. It has 78 pages. I don't think you would like to present 78 pages, and I don't think your customer wants to go through 78 pages either. But it's just to show you, this is what the cover sheet looks like, just to show you exactly how detailed this report can be. Okay, so 78 pages, all of the pictures, it's going to have all of the information and all the details for the comps, but we don't need all of that, and we don't need all of the market activity. So if you remove the pages that I suggested you remove, you're going to get a report that is going to be much shorter. It's about 11 pages in this situation. It's usually no more than 20, which is much more manageable. It's going to have the property's information. It's going to have ownership information, the map with the comps. It's going to have the comps in columns with those adjustments. And then it's going to have one page dedicated to each comparable. So if you wanted to, you could have a conversation about each comp, why it was chosen and why it makes a valid comp. And then at the bottom, you can gather some signatures. This isn't a legally binding document, but if you just wanted to, have proof that you made the presentation and the date it occurred, you can go ahead and have them sign. And then at the end, you have the explanation of what RPR is, where they get their data, and how often they update that data. I also included the IMAP comparables, and I said to place it at the end, so here it is at the end. Okay, and that was your RPR report. Pretty easy to create. It walks you through it step by step. And the last report I wanted to show you is the one from Realist. So I'm going to go ahead back to the Miami Gateway. I'm going to locate the icon for Realist, which is at the bottom next to IMAP, and I'm going to click on Realist. All right. So in order to create a CMA in Realist, you are going to first and foremost look at your settings, because that's where you enter your criteria. So in the top right corner, there is a symbol for a gear. I click on that symbol. And on the left-hand side, I'm going to go to the reports, specifically focusing on comparables. So how many comparables do I want them to pull? I want to see a maximum of 10 because I have to open each of these and analyze them one by one. Sorting method, I always sort them by distance. I include property images, and I include the value projected by square foot, as opposed to the assessment, which comes from the property appraiser's office. I also don't include the real AVM. AVMs are automated valuation models. Those are going to be estimated values based on each system's calculations, and each system is a little different. Whereas price per square foot is price per square foot, it's more concrete. The data source, I have it pulling from the tax record, because any sale that occurs on the MLS legally is recorded on the tax record, and any sale that occurs off the MLS is also legally recorded in the tax record. Pool, this is general settings, so I leave the pool at no preference. I put the distance at half mile. I leave sale price blank, year built blank, bedrooms blank. I can always alter that on the spot if I needed to. Okay, date type, I always like to see the sale date, not the recording date. We know that it sells one day and then it can take a little while for that to be updated. And I'm not interested in seeing the date in which it was recorded in the tax record. I want to see the sale date. I have the search time period going back 6 months. Living building area, 20% difference. Lot area, 20% difference. And then the style is always going to be the same as the subject property. Okay, same as subject for the land use as well. Once you've entered that criteria, just make sure you save it by clicking on Save Changes in the bottom right corner. All right, let's go back to Realist and its homepage. We're going to stick to the quick search, and in the property address, we are going to enter the address for this property. If they offer you suggestions, here are some properties with similar addresses in Coral Springs, in Davie. I know that the subject property is in Miami, which is this one. So I'm going to go ahead and check it off and click Proceed. It's going to open the details. I want to see the comps. So up at the top, I have some tabs available. One of them says comparables. I'm going to click on comparables. And using the criteria that I had saved in my settings, it's gone ahead and it's given me some comparables. Now, if I wanted to edit the criteria, I could go to search criteria in the top right corner, click on that, and I can edit the criteria for this situation. If I click on save and submit, it makes it my new default. If I click on just submit, it's only going to use it in this situation. If I double click on any of these comparables, it will open up the details for that comp, and I can go through and I can decide whether or not I'm going to include it. And I can go down the line and look at all 10 comparables that they were able to find. If I do not want to include it, let me show you. So this was the first property. If I wanted to include it, on the right hand side, it says include in comparables. If I want to remove it, I'm going to remove the check mark. Okay, so I remove it by removing the check mark from where it says include in comparables. And once I'm done, okay, let's go through. I can kind of remember the ones that I had included just to kind of keep to the same 3 or 4 comparables. Once I'm done reviewing everything, I'm going to click on that X in the top right corner. Now I have my comparables here. I have my high, low, and median for sale price, square footage, price per square foot, etc. I want to create a report. At the bottom right, it says generate report. I click on generate. It's going to give me the same information, but in a report format. So it's going to take it and finalize the info. We've got our columns with our comps. If I wanted to print or email this, at the bottom left, it says print and email. If all I'm interested in printing or emailing is this CMA, I'm going to click on print and then click on quick print, which will print exactly what I have on screen in that moment. Okay, and this is what the CMA from Realist looks like. Okay, it's got the map, the criteria that we used, the summary of the statistics. It has each of the comparables in a column next to the subject property. And that's it. We cannot make adjustments to the comparables. There are no pictures of any of the comparables. There's just one tiny little thumbnail, which was also the case in the Remind report and also in the Matrix report. Most often, you're going to see just a thumbnail. I think RPR is the only one that will include additional pictures if available from the MLS for the comps. But if you're not satisfied with this report and you want a little more detail, this is also a PDF, so I can download this and combine it with the more detailed report from Matrix or the more detailed report from RPR. So we've officially gone through all of your CMA report options. We went through Matrix, we did the CMA, and we did the CMA one line. You can also include the 3-up comparison there. We went into IMAP and we searched for comparables. We downloaded that as a PDF and I showed you how to upload it to Matrix. We also went into Remind to create the report there. It doesn't allow for adjustments to be made. So it is going to be a more condensed version of what we created in Matrix. We went into our PR where we also have a very detailed report where adjustments can be made. But if you're not comfortable calculating those adjustments, Remind will calculate them and calibrate them based off of a scale where you say things are better or worse, a property is better or worse. And then we finished off with the report from Realist, which also does not allow for adjustments. So if you wanted to make this and fine tune it as much as possible, the systems that will allow you to make adjustments to your comparables are Matrix and RPR. Okay, but you have report options available from Matrix, IMAP, RPR, Remind, and Realist. I do want to thank you for being with us this afternoon, and thank you so much for your patience. I know this class is a little bit longer and it's a lot of information. Hopefully you found it to be really useful, helpful information. If you have any questions, remember you can always reach out to the trainers. We would be happy to help as much as we can. Again, thank you for attending, and thank you so much for being Miami members.